So, hello guys. I miss you so much. I hope that you guys are all doing well. School is a very lonely place without you. It's not quite as much fun with only adults. Um, so, we're going to do our first video. It's my first YouTube video, so please excuse any errors. Where we left off was that Harry had to pretend to not exist, and it's his birthday, and he's slumped on the garden bench singing happy birthday to himself. When this happens. Countless times Harry had been on the point of unlocking Hedwig's cage, Hedwig's his owl, by magic and sending her to Ron and Hermione with a letter, but it wasn't worth the risk. Underage wizards weren't allowed to use magic outside his school. Harry hadn't told the Dursleys this. He knows their terror that he might turn them all into dung beetles that stopped him from locking him in the cupboard under the stairs with his books and his broomstick. For the first couple of weeks back, Harry had enjoyed muttering nonsense words under his breath and watching Dudley tearing out of the room as fast as his fat legs would carry him. But the long silence from Ron and Hermione had made Harry feel so cut off from the magical world that even taunting Dudley had lost its appeal, and now Ron and Hermione had forgotten his birthday. What wouldn't he give now for a message from Hogwarts, from any witch or wizard? He'd almost be glad at the sight of his arch enemy, Draco Malfoy. Just to be sure it hadn't all been a dream. Not that his whole year at Hogwarts had been fun. At the very end of the last term, Harry had come face to face with none other than Lord Voldemort himself. Voldemort might be a ruin of his former self, but he was still terrifying, still cunning, and still determined to rise to power. Harry had slipped through Voldemort's clutches for a second time, but it had been a narrow escape, and even now, weeks later, Harry kept waking in the night, drenched in a cold sweat, wondering where Voldemort was now, remembering his livid face, his wide, mad eyes. Harry suddenly sat bolt upright on the garden bench. He had been staring absent-mindedly into the hedge, and the hedge was staring back. Two enormous green eyes had appeared among the leaves. Harry jumped to his feet just as a jeering voice floated across the lawn. "I know what day it is," sang Dudley, waddling toward him. The huge eyes blinked and vanished. "What?" said Harry, not taking his eyes off the spot where they had been. "I know what day it is," Dudley repeated, coming right up to him. "Well done," said Harry. "So you finally learned the days of the week?" "Today's your birthday," sneered Dudley. "How come you haven't gotten any cards? Haven't you got any friends at that freak place?" "Better not let your mom hear you talking about my school," said Harry coolly. Dudley hitched up his trousers, which were slipping down over his fat bottom. "Why are you staring into that hedge?" he said suspiciously. "I'm trying to decide what would be the best spell to set it on fire," said Harry. Dudley stumbled backward at once, a look of panic on his fat face. You can't! Dad told you you're not to do magic. He said he'll chuck you out of the house, and you haven't got anywhere else to go. You haven't got any friends to take you." "Jiggery-pokery," said Harry in a fierce voice. "Hocus pocus, squiggly wiggly." "Mom!" howled Dudley, tripping over his feet as he dashed back toward the house. "Mom, he's doing you-know-what!" Harry paid dearly for his moment of fun, as neither Dudley nor the hedge was in any way hurt. Aunt Petunia knew he hadn't really done magic, but he still had to duck as she aimed a heavy blow at his head with the soapy frying pan. Then she gave him work to do, with the promise he wouldn't eat until he was finished. While Dudley lolled around and ate ice cream, Harry cleaned the windows, washed the car, mowed the lawn, trimmed the flower beds, pruned and watered the roses, and repainted the garden bench. The sun blazed overhead, burning the back of his neck. Harry knew he shouldn't have risen to Dudley's bait, but Dudley had said the very thing Harry had been thinking himself. Maybe he didn't have any friends at Hogwarts. "Wish they could see the famous Harry Potter now," he thought savagely as he spread manure on the flower bed, his back aching, sweat running down his face. It was 7:30 in the evening when at last, exhausted, he heard Aunt Petunia calling him. "Get in here and walk on the newspaper." She put newspaper down because he could be dirty and she didn't want dirt all over her freshly cleaned house. Harry moved gladly into the shade of the gleaming kitchen. On top of the fridge stood tonight's pudding, a huge mound of whipped cream and sugared violets. A loin of roast pork was sizzling in the oven. "Eat quickly. The Masons will be here soon," snapped Aunt Petunia, pointing to 2 slices of bread and a lump of cheese on the kitchen table. She was already wearing a salmon pink cocktail dress. Harry washed his hands and bolted down his pitiful supper. The moment he had finished, Aunt Petunia whisked away his plate. "Upstairs and hurry." As he passed the door to the living room, Harry caught a glimpse of Uncle Vernon and Dudley in bow ties and dinner jackets. He had only just reached the upstairs landing when the doorbell rang, and Uncle Vernon's furious face appeared at the foot of the stairs. "Remember, boy, 1 sound." Harry crossed to his bedroom on tiptoe, slipped inside, closed the door, and turned to collapse on his bed. The trouble was, there was already somebody sitting on it. And that's where we're going to finish. So, in an earlier video, I showed you how to do some rubbings. And so today, I want you to draw a hedge with 2 enormous green eyes. You can add any text that you want from the book, but as long as you have that hedge with the 2 enormous green eyes, it's going to be important when we read chapter 2. I hope you guys are doing well, and I will talk to you soon. Email me if you have any questions.